Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revel, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island. Let's Chat is a long-form conversational chat where we invite guests on from the world of punk rock, podcasting, and pop culture. Today's guest, we have Pat Edwards. Pat's the fucking man. We got along a little too well, where we almost kind of completely forgot to talk about the thing he's here to promote. We'll have him back on. I could just talk about the '90s Bulls with this dude forever. But just all the same reference points. What a good dude. So Pat and I actually got connected from past guest and friend of the show, Ash Blodgett. Ash is one of the podcast hosts with Patrick for the fantastic podcast Let's Rewatch. Ash is also a fantastic filmmaker. She runs Laugh Stash TV. Filmmaker, I mean, running some of the best DIY YouTube videos out there and teaching, and just fucking awesome person. We're gonna get her back on. She's been on a couple times back in the past. Well, anyway, so Patrick is out there right now, fucking pounding pavement, doing press for the Red Opera. The Red Opera is a 5e campaign based on DiAmorte's metal album. Their album is also self-titled. So this is for any of you Dungeons and Dragons fans out there. They currently have a Kickstarter that is live. We'll put all that stuff in our show notes. Please, if you can, donate. If you can't, please just at the very least share. Pat's a good guy, and I'm all about trying to support the good people making good art. You know, that's what we're here for. And it's funny because we just got along a little too well, where we almost forgot to talk about the reason he's here. I could have gone in a rabbit hole just talking about a number of things from like aliens to the '90s Bulls to just like, I don't know, Scrubs, Community, like we just liked all the same stuff. So thank you to Ash for connecting us. We had so much fun. We're definitely gonna do this again. Actually, since doing this episode, which talk about, I actually did go back and listen to the Let's Rewatch episode with Hector Navarro, where Ash was, I guess, a naysayer of the Marvel films for very long, goes back and watches them all. And it's actually put me to do my own Marvel quest, so my wife and I are starting to watch all the Marvel movies again. So anyone out there just wants to tweet on me at Let's Chat Revel on the Twitter, or at Let's Chat Podcast and all the things about Marvel movies, please, let's do it. They're really good. I fucking love them. Pat's a busy dude. Besides the Red Opera, which is Kickstarter is live, I hope I mentioned that. You could hear him on the Let's Rewatch podcast, which I just mentioned. He's got a book out called Space Tripping, and he does weekly. He just does every Tuesday at 2 p.m. EST. You can catch him on Geekly Inc. doing the Happy Hell Hour, which is virtual D&D. Holy shit! I learned so much about D&D and all this new virtual stuff. I'm trying to get really into it. We're in the process of setting up a Twitch and doing some cool shit because it's really fun. Ever since our See You Live event, I didn't realize how much fun I had watching a movie with other people online or playing video games, and it's been really great. I've been playing so much Tony Hawk, and it's been pretty wonderful. Yeah, so big thanks to Pat for coming on. We got some announcements here on the show end. Make sure if you haven't already, you can join our Facebook group. It's the Let's Chat community. We're super active on there. Our Facebook page, no matter how much time or energy we're putting into it, we're getting nothing in return because of the algorithms, and we weren't paying Facebook for ads, so fuck them. But we're also on Twitter. Thank you to Bree for setting us up with a Patreon. What? A huge shout out to the Vern from Cinema Recall for being our first Patreon. It means the world to us. Make sure you check out that wonderful podcast. We've been expanding our YouTube Live. You can check that out. Our own very Bree has a brand new podcast. You can find that on our YouTube channel. It's called Talking Shit with Bree and Ness. They're on Twitter, Bree and Nessa Pod. It's really good. I really liked it. They did the first pilot episode up on our YouTube, and they have fantastic chemistry. They're real life best friends. They don't hold anything back. I got to hop on for a little bit, and it was like they're talking about like Marvel movies, not being afraid of death, and then like Perfume or something. They were just so fucking funny. I really liked it. I can't wait to see this grow to what it will become. And make sure you check out our other great stuff on our YouTube channel that we've been building out. We've got some good Let's Chat stuff we do with Chuck and Brad from the Chuck and Brad podcast. We did one with Bree and Chris Ball, and I did one together, and we also did one with Isaac from Cracked. That was really cool. I will put these on our Patreon exclusive feed coming soon. But in the meantime, check us out, let's chat podcast.net. I'm on Twitter, Let's Chat Revel. We are at Let's Chat Podcast and all the things except Patreon. That's Let's Chat Pod. Just look us up online. Anyway, let's get to it. Last Dance is the most I'm a fucking documentary fanatic. I grew up with the 90s Bulls. My wife hates sports, hates Bulls, doesn't know anything about the Bulls, not from that world, just enamored by that documentary. It was...
Yeah, same with my wife. She is not a sports fan. I grew up in Chicago, and I'm 35, so if you do the math, I was, in grade school and junior high while this was all happening. So it's like, for me, the nostalgia of The Last Dance I'm pretty sure I was in The Last Dance in the crowd, actually, in one of the games. So there's one.
No.
It was in the second three-peat of the Bulls, after he came back. I believe it was the first championship of the second three-peat. They won game one with a buzzer beater at the United Center from Michael. I was at that game. My a family friend and neighbor, and it was my friend's dad had tickets, and he took me and his son, who was my friend and our other friend, to that game, and it was game one against the Jazz. And so I was at a finals game where Jordan won.
Dude.
Yeah. Obviously I lost my mind and loved it. Part of me is like, I wish I could have done it I would have been a little older to appreciate it a little at its peak, because I was like 7th grade or something like that, but still, I
Dude,
that was one of the peak of my basketball fandom too, because there was this VHS tape I used to watch every other morning before school called NBA Rising Stars, and it was just highlights about when Shaq was first coming in the league, and Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, Alonzo Mourning, Chris Webber, and who else was in there on that? I wore that tape out.
I just keep thinking Space Jam.
Yeah, we just did Space Jam for Let's Rewatch. It hasn't released yet.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh my god. This is so sad that I didn't put together that you were part of Let's Rewatch because of the little mustache thing on the thing. Because I've known about because I don't know, I internet friended Ash and Brett from they're some of the earliest people I met through the internet community, the Potter world. Because I remember when Let's Rewatch started. So I've totally listened to your voice for hundreds of hours and just put together a minute ago. It's wait, because I was listening to the Aliens episode today, and then I don't know how I didn't put that to the two. It's too funny because I love all this.
Yeah, and that's how I started as a guest. I'm not an OG host of Let's Rewatch.
Okay, good. I got so confused because I had some gap of period. I was
what's funny that you mentioned that though is that's how I got linked up with Ash and Brett and them as internet friends of just kind of somehow we found each other and we're being supportive of each other's stuff. Actually, I think I found them through Ash when she was doing the Let's Drink show.
Oh, the laughs
on YouTube, the YouTube show Let's Drink.
Yeah,
and then I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And I write about drunk aliens, and there's some synergy. And then we're just Twitter buddies. And then when my first novel came out, I was out in LA, and I reached out to them, and I was like, "Oh man, I would love to do Let's Drink." Well, we're on hiatus, but we do this podcast, Let's Rewatch, where we do movies, and we're gonna do Alien, which kind of syncs up. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do Alien. And then we really hit it off, and then I was a guest a few more times just for fun because we all really vibed well with each other. And then there was a host who left for fine, nothing bad, just personal stuff, professional stuff, just didn't work out. And then his father got killed in a car accident unexpectedly, and then they just retired to play baseball. But same that little story. Yeah. But and then they asked me if I wanted to do it, and that was that was the end. It was late 2018, I want to say, that I became a permanent host. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's been. I think I remember. I love one of my favorite episodes they did. It might have been before you. With Hector Navarro about Goof Troop. They did a Goof Troop one
that like
No,
made me actually really love Goop Troop like more than
Hector.
I realized.
Hector is so phenomenal. I was not part of the show at that, but we did. I don't know if you're doing like a backlog or if you're current with us. This summer we did we did kind of a different format than the usual format because Ash, who was a longtime naysayer of the Marvel films of the MCU, and I would always come at her like, "You just haven't watched them, really. Like you've seen them. Sit down and watch them. I guarantee you'll think that you'll realize they're amazing." It was almost like the whole the Scorsese comments that kind of started it. So she, during like quarantine, she like said, "I'm gonna embark on Marvel Quest. I'm gonna watch all of them like in order, and like live tweet them." And then by the end, she was texting us in our group chat, and it was like, "Damn it, Pat, you got me. These are great. I want to talk about these. Can we do a special episode where we just kind of do a retrospective on the whole MCU?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And then Hector came back and joined us for that one, and that's out now. It came out in the summer of 2020, and
oh god, I fucking love those movies. Like I don't by any means consider myself like a cinephile. Like I know like that I'm a popcorn movie fan, but like man, like Endgame was probably one of the most amazing theater going experiences I've had in my entire life.
Not even one of the for me. I've seen two, and it's really funny. Your interview intuition is like firing on all cylinders, Chris, right now, because you talked about you mentioned Space Jam. We recently did a Let's Rewatch recording. Literally last night, the night before recording this interview, I was on another show where on Geekly Media where we did dive into Thor Ragnarok, which is my personal favorite MCU movie.
That's the one I go back to the most. Yeah, Taika Waititi is like
he's my favorite director.
We're trying to get him on here. There's I mean, I don't know if we can, but I befriended a documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary A Fat Wreck. Very good, but I had met the director of that when he was making it, and now he's got Sean Colon, really good dude. But we just became buddies, so he's gonna come back and do some co-hosting. But he's like, dude, I want to get some Marvel people on there, and I was like, all right, well, give me your blue sky version of who you want to have on. It might take us 5 years, but like I'm fucking sure when I want a guest, like I'll wait 5 years, and I'm like, we'll do it.
Taika is like
so he's our goal.
My dream of like if I wrote a script to be filmed. Of course, other than my dear sweet friend Ash, who is an incredibly talented director and also directed a short film I wrote this summer or in quarantine that's in post-production. But setting aside my dear sweet friend Ash, who's an amazing talented director and should do all the feature films, Taika Waititi would be a dream director for me to write to, because I almost got upset I liked Thor Ragnarok so much because basically Marvel already made the movie I would make if I was given the reins to a more.
I think a lot of people thought, well, we should blow up Ash a little bit more because I met her, I think, in my early days of podcasting. I started this in 2013. Yeah. I forgot when we would have come across each other, but at that time when we first met, that was like one of the first times I interviewed someone I didn't know who or anyone. It was like one of those first times. And I remember I have it very vividly. So I'm a case manager for at a psychiatric hospital, and I remember having this like terrible day at work where I had to bring a client to like bring him to the emergency room because they made an attempt. It was it was a really dark day, and then it would have been like I was going to cancel, but I was like, no, I never met this person, and I remember watching the short film she had sent me as a prep and like really really gravitating to it. So I was like, all right, fuck it, it was like one of those moments. I was like, all right, and then became friends with like Ash, and then she came back on with Brett, and then like it was that time of YouTube. I was like watching her stuff. I'm like, you made this? And she's like, yeah. I was like, I have a BlackBerry. I can't figure out how the fuck did you make this?
It's one of those things. It's not just because she's my friend. It is a matter of time before she is doing. I'll put it on wax right now. She will be doing like studio feature films. Like she is so talented. When we did the shoot, we did this short film totally shot via video call with everyone like shooting themselves on camera in their home and stuff, and it's from the perspective of a video call. You have 8 actors and her, and you think it can go pretty smoothly, but of course stuff goes wrong and there's tech issues and you're not there physically, right? So you're trying to work through it over the call and stuff and text and everything. and I'm like freaking out, like everything's falling apart, and she's just cool as a cucumber and like pivoting and like, all right, well, we're just gonna do this shot, then we'll come back to that. It's good. And then we did it all over a weekend, and we got done like 2 hours early ahead of schedule, which never happens. And I was like, I am dead inside. I don't know how you just did that.
One of my things, I'm gonna blow up her a little more because when all the pandemic hit, like how the Tonight Show and all that shit just turned to like YouTube, but like it was the moment I noticed the old guard who's still in control has no idea what to do. Like I remember I was watching Comic-Con at home, furious, like angry because it was just a fucking bunch of Zoom calls, and I went on Twitter. I'm not a tweet storm person, but I was really upset, and I was like. And I literally remember calling out, like, YouTubers and specifically Last FTV have been making higher quality videos with less budget and technology for the last, like, 5+ years. And multi-billion-dollar corporations couldn't give John Benjamin, like, a camera. Like, it's, like, this weird trend with, like, the celebrities to be, like, or, like, all the, like Jimmy Fallon looked like fucking garbage. I'm like,
they sound like shit.
Hire a YouTuber.
They sound like the sound quality is terrible. And it's just,
The video... This video call that we're doing on our shitty our laptops and wherever looks nicer than like it's like this weird trend, and it made me so mad. It's like celebrities always being like the shittiest room in their house. They'd have poor Wi-Fi and be like, "We're just like you." I'm like, just spend $100, get a camera, and it makes me so mad. But like the quality Laugh Stash has been putting out is better than tonight. And I bet before all this happened, I could never been like. Ash and Lash Dash TV is making higher quality stuff than NBC Universal, and there's now 6 months of data to show that they have made higher quality stuff than NBC Universal with the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Enough about my shit. I still get mad about that. But they were the first YouTube people I've ever met, or like, and I'm actually now redoing a YouTube dive. I kind of relearning, getting more into YouTube. I've just become like I'm super obsessed with, like video essays about like really obscure thing, and like what YouTube does so well is like, and well at least it's not sending me to Alex Jones videos anymore, but now I'm at least getting videos I want to see. It's like, well, you want to watch this thing about Tony Hawk, then you'll probably like this song about Goldfinger or whatever. Man, you're such an enigma to me, because on paper you're like a writer. We're here to talk about the Kickstarter for the Red Opera, your D&D thing, your Kickstarter, the Let's Rewatch podcast, all this stuff, and then like your physical appearance doesn't match what one would expect. Is this something that comes up often? Because you're more physically in tune to a Joe Rogan, but probably less. But
yes,
you're too handsome for your world. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I
Do you get this a lot?
A little. I appreciate. I am a fitness fanatic, and I played. It's really weird. I was a decent athlete growing up. Was very much steeped in the bro jock culture as a child, growing up through like high school and college. And I have some dear sweet friends. They're awesome people. But I always felt a little bit like an outsider and just something and I used to also be really heavy too at one point, and so I have just it is an obsession. Every day it's like I have to do it. It's almost more for mental health than physical health at this point, because I get my wife's also very supportive of that too, because she knows I'm a different person if I didn't get to do a little workout that day. So yeah,
I'm actually turning into someone like you. So I'm here. I work in behavioral health. Yeah. I preach the mind-body connection, but I've always been more of the mind work, and then noticing when I actually do exercise and like, hey, I'm less anxious if I take that 30-minute walk and then that 30,
No, I'm a big ball of like super nerdy, compassionate, empathy goofball that is in a linebacker shell.
You're Vin Diesel, because he's like jacked as well, but also loves D&D.
And we both have shaved heads, so yeah.
And you shaved your head. So Bree, our producer Bree, who couldn't be here tonight, is going to be so jealous, because I was missing a text thread with the Let's Chat crew about Vin Diesel before this happened, and they were all so pissed that I never saw the Fast and Furious movies.
I still need to go. I've seen the first two. I saw them like when they first kind of came out, and I was like, yeah, these are fun. And then I never saw any of the others. And then I hear, especially like the ones with the Rock, like it was like 5, 6, 7, 8. I hear they're tons of fun. I just have never gotten around to watching them.
Yeah, because I saw the first one. We're about the same age. Like, I remember seeing the first one and having to get picked up from Nick Weatherall's mom in her minivan, and us trying to get her to hit the gas really hard. And that's the last time I saw one.
Yeah.
And then like 20 years went by. It was like, for me, it was like Pokemon. Like, I was into it, I saw it, and then like 20 years went by, and all of a sudden, it never left.
How fun, how cool did you feel that first summer when you were old enough your parents felt comfortable dropping you in a movie theater with like $25, and it's like get you know, you play the video games in the lobby, the arcade games for a little bit, go see a movie. If you had time, like if they had a lot of stuff to do and it was gonna be a long time, you try and sneak in maybe a double, make it a double feature.
Second one. Or did you do the thing where you'd walk by the Showgirls and see if you could sneak it because they had the blackout window, and then only to grow as an adult? That would be a good Let's Rewatch, because that movie does not.
It does not.
It's just not good. It's which actually I don't know. Do you listen to the podcast Blank Check with Griffin and David? It's like a film podcast. It's one of my favorites.
I don't. Yeah. Should I?
Oh, it's probably one of the bigger movie podcasts. Okay. Like, it's like Time Magazine called it like one of the top podcasts. Griffin plays Arthur on The Tick, and he's a huge,
the Amazon Prime, the Gone Too Soon. One. I really enjoyed that, by the way, and I was sad it was good.
I loved it. He's a super nice guy. He was nice enough he was a guest on this show, and like I got to geek out with him pretty hard because that character really resonated with me. I loved what they did with it, but they did an episode about Showgirls, and it was really interesting. Like, it made me really have a lot of empathy for Elizabeth Berkley, of like, because she was like a really good actor, and it was just like they kind of sold her on something else. I could be remembering it, but like it sounded like from her experience through interviews and stuff, like they just took the director would make her, you know, it was Verhoeven, so it was like a director, but then like between the editors, like they just took all of her really bad takes and made it it's such a weird.
They basically
movie.
Through editing did her dirty.
Yeah, it didn't sound like she had ill will. Like, it wasn't like an intentional. Like, they were trying to fuck her over. It just sounded like, and I'm a big fan of a big swing and a miss. Yeah. So like, I love Saved by the Bell, but like, it really sounded like it fucked up her career pretty hard.
I mean,
more about Showgirls.
I feel like I hadn't seen her since then in anything but the Saved by the Bell revival.
Yeah, and I'd never think to like look her up.
Yeah, it's not like I've got her on like IMDb and refreshing it every month or so. Like, she done anything?
That was more of a Kelly Kapowski. No, what was the other one who comes on later with a leather jacket?
Oh,
Tori? No.
Yeah. What is it? No. Now Tori's stuck in my head, but I don't know if that's right. But I know exactly.
No. Oh my god, I know. She gives birth and she delivers a baby in an elevator.
Oh man.
What other Saved by the Bell plots? And this is the stuff people tune in for, is half remembering of Saved by the Plot, Saved by the Bell, and your Kickstarter. One of the great things is your Kickstarter is already fucking smashed all its records.
Thank you. Yeah, should we talk about that? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I really think people want to hear more about that later seasons, the Mr. Carosi era levels of Saved by the Bell, or maybe the Hawaiian Vacation
people what
instead.
they want. Let's not talk about.
It's a Hawaiian Vacation.
Yeah.
Why was Leia Remini really stole the show with that racist episode of?
Yeah, like, obviously, I feel like it gets a lot of flack but really, then they're all working at the resort. It's obviously objectively the best season of the show. I'm kidding. Do not at me.
Or please do, because I'm like, I don't remember anything about that episode except thinking my reference point is I did my buddy's Brady Bunch rewatch podcast and realized that the Saved by the Bell beach seasons were like basically just ripping off the Brady Bunch.
I just remember when they were in the college years too, the one counselor teacher guy was just such an odd look to him, because he's this really jacked big dude with a flowing coat with like this giant lion's mane of ringlets of hair, and it's like, that is such an interesting look. Like,
oh my, because I'm standing on the edge of tomorrow today. But for real, your Kickstarter.
Yeah. So, kind of one of the this is more fun. One of the impetus for us to get together is So I am a writer. I'm an author, and I've started my first novel with Space Tripping. The sequel's coming out pretty soon here around year end, or we'll see how things go with everything COVID, right? But the other project I've been working on that was really big was I co-wrote a D&D campaign book for 5th edition. I was brought in. I have a friend who also is a writer named Rick Hines, and Rick is a novelist and also writes like GM tips, Game Master tips for. He's written for Geek and Sundry and Nerdist and Gilding Light. His experience in like the tabletop RPG gaming world and D&D and in similar systems is outrageous. The wealth of knowledge he has. In Chicago, he runs in a weekly session called D&D for Kids, where you teach, like, it's like a scaled down version to teach kids like storytelling and collaboration. And he's got like 200 kids that like attend these things, and yeah, so that's great. I've been playing for the better part of a decade. I'm definitely not a lifelong D&Der, but it's something I've really fallen in love with in recent years, and just, yeah. And so we were friends. And we got, because both of our first novels were published by the same publisher. He came to my first book signing to meet. We had been online friends, met in person, hung out all day. We really clicked, stayed in touch. Then he reached out to me. I was like, "Hey, I got this thing. I think you'd be a really good person to kind of tag team this with me, because we get along really well, but we're also very complementary in our writing styles and what we're good at, and we're definitely different, like two sides of the same coin type of thing, like where I'm maybe weaker, he's stronger, and vice versa. So the impetus for this was there's a band, there's a lot of layers. I'm trying to do this as efficiently as possible. There is a
dude, I know it was covered based off a metal album. Is it
so
DiAmorte? Is that, did I say it right?
DiAmorte, yeah. So there is a band, they're signed to Dark Star Records, called DiAmorte. They're out of Chicago. They have an album and a stage show called The Red Opera, and it's actually like a 10 tracks. It's actually like a gothic orchestral metal opera that they performed. They perform on stage. There's an album, you can listen to it on Spotify right now, and it does tell a story like an opera does. So it was kind of Rick's idea, and he was friends with Drake, who's the lead for the band, and he's like, we should do this. We should turn this into a thing. So the band brought us in. It's like, okay, here's the album. Create a world around it. Flesh it out. It was just going to be kind of this little like 20,000 word mini module thing, almost like a side quest.
So many words.
Chris, let me tell you what our final word count is. Yeah,
I'm not a writer, so you could hear that. What?
But it really took off and became a life of its own, and we built this huge sprawling campaign, and we built this whole new region that can take place in your D&D world, and this living, breathing city. And there's 10 songs on the album, so there's 10 chapters in the book, and they all have the same title as the song, and there's kind of a theme, and you go through this whole adventure in this setting we created. So we adapted that and made it a playable adventure, and really fleshed out and created lore for the surrounding area where this saga, the story takes place. Created NPCs, created characters. It is on the 5e engine, I'll say, like the 5th edition D&D chassis, but that's about where it stops. Is everything is pretty much original in this as far as content and like setting and creation. And my main job was, we kind of divided and conquered where our strengths were. So like Rick was definitely, and he kind of had the vision for this, so he was taking lead on like the narrative, the story, and creating the character, like these main NPC characters that your players interact with. I get to have what I think is the fun job, and I got to design like the settings and encounters and set pieces and monsters and enemies and stuff, and the item that you fight, and like the puzzles and the magic items you find and all of that. So like I created the city where it takes place, and like and there was collaboration the whole time through. But as far as like where we each were like the primary, you know what I'm saying? Like where I would take primary lead on this, and then come back to him, be like, what you think of this, and get feedback, and vice versa. But so that was a lot of fun. And then the main document campaign by itself is now like 85,000 words. And then as of us talking, we're on the verge of unlocking our 5th stretch goal. We've got 4 stretch goals unlocked. 3 of those are new mini adventure side quests that are already written that will be added in. And then a lot of other original content, like new playable races, player species that you can play that are native to the Shadelands, which is this region that we've created where this takes place. New classes. So the Red Opera itself, what we did was, and this was all credit to Rick for this. He had this great idea, and we're probably going to do it again with another class. So I feel like for those who aren't familiar, or you might know enough, you play D&D, you're a character, and you choose a class like Wizard or Barbarian or something, and those are, I feel like, the two most accessible for those who don't know, right? It's like, what type of like adventurer are you? You know, are you a cleric that heals people? Are you a barbarian that smashes people with your big hammer? Are you a wizard and cast spells? So there's lots of different ones. There's one called a warlock, which we all know the word. But warlocks are very interesting because they're very versatile. They're often underutilized and overlooked. And there's no real official D&D lore. There's no official like warlock capital. So we created one. And what's interesting about warlocks in that world is warlocks get their power by forging a pact with some otherworldly entity. It could be malevolent, it could be benevolent, it could be neutral, you know, it could be a demon, an angel, whatever. You get your power by making a deal with some very powerful being, and they give you these abilities to do cool spells and things like that and be an adventuring hero, but they always want something, right? They always want something in return for that. So we chose warlocks are kind of the set piece here, kind of like they're the focal point of this and the through line. So it's a city that is controlled by warlocks and run by warlocks, and it's kind of like there's all these, they're called patrons, or the powerful beings that grant them the powers. So we created new classes of warlock that aren't in D&D currently that you can play with different power sets and things. So I'm a big fan of stuff like that. Like, give me new original things, new trinkets, I call them, new toys to play with in these sandboxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot, and I was really excited to see those all get sort of unlocked, because that was really something we wanted to make sure we were able to include, was these side quests that incorporate these different new powers and abilities and stuff that we created. So.
How much does your wife like when you talk about it?
She's like way more into it now when she sees how successful the Kickstarter is going.
Oh yeah, because I saw in you what happens to me when I talk about my podcast. My wife is super supportive, but then there at some point I'm way more excited, and it's like 11:30 at night, and I was like, I love that about people when you're talking, you're like and as you're saying all that, I was like, no wonder that took 85,000 words. Holy shit, that was a lot. So, which is so funny, because I have so many friends into D&D, and for so many years I'd be like, I don't know anything about it. But now it's become enough of the culture where I still have never played it, but I have like a osmosis of it from like TV and movies. So, like, I know like enough.
It's something where if you have a friend who will play with you who does know what they're doing, it's actually, the barrier to entry is very low. If you have someone who can kind of walk it through you, it's definitely one of those.
Oh, I've been invited. I just am lame and never did. Like, Community was, I think, did it the best for me.
Yeah, well, because this thing is, it's definitely one of those things. Like, from the outside, it looks, and it is. There's a fuck ton of stuff going on in the game, right? And stuff you have to know, and rules you have to be aware of. But it's not all at once, right? You can piecemeal it, like, little by little. Just worry about creating a character first, and then you have your DM, and they'll guide you through it, and you can take your time. And honestly, it's, if you have someone who already knows what they're doing, it's not that hard to dive in. And there's lots of great tools like D&D Beyond, where you can like build it, like kind of walks you through building a character sheet and all of that. And it's like it's I think it's easier than ever to dip your toe in the water and try it out.
Oh, it's and like, every creator I love talks about growing up and playing it. Like, I mean, like the Russo brothers. I mean, like, everyone. It's like how everyone learns storytelling. And it was cool when you mentioned that thing about your friend does it for kids. I was like, I wonder if my daughter would like that, because I obviously want to push her towards that kind of stuff.
It's it's great for like,
it seems cool.
Yeah, learning storytelling, because it's improv. It's improv group, like collaborative storytelling, and it teaches you. It's good for like teamwork and collaboration, and it kind of shows you in real time like how it's so important when you're working and engaging with other people to be supportive and uplifting of each other, and bringing the like improv yes and into daily life. And it's a great example of that, because everyone will come to the table with some kind of agenda for their character, where they're like, I have this like funny bit I want to do, and I'm a big enabler of that stuff, where it's like, whatever it is I think you're trying to do with your character, I want to help you do that. If you have like a funny bit you're trying to just, whether it's some recurring joke or even if it's a more of a dramatic thing where you're trying to get some like kind of dramatic arc going for your character, I want to, whether I'm the DM or I'm one of your player teammates, I want to help. I want to help you realize that, like when I'm at the table with you. And I've played with people that aren't like that, and it's a real fucking bummer, man. And nothing grinds it to a halt in someone who's just like, nah, we're not doing it. It's just like shut stuff down, and it's like, I get you think you're being funny, but you're kind of just like harshing it all. So
I never heard anyone throw that improv line into it, and I was like, oh, that just checks off another one of my buttons. I was like, I fucking love all that. I was like, huh, I never really thought of that. I don't think I even heard. I don't think I had any awareness of it until I was in college. Mm-hmm. Like at least where I grew up. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know anyone who played when we were kids. I was trying to remember like my knowledge from it, but like the series finale of Freaks and Geeks. They play in D&D, and one of my favorite episodes of Community and iZombie, they play D&D. And I was like, that's kind of where I remember. I always think of were you a Community fan?
Oh, yeah. It's funny, earlier this year I finished a rewatch of it, just personally I went through and watched it.
Because it came to Netflix? Mm-hmm. There's like a billion of these awesome Community podcasts that had just like popped off right when it came to Netflix. Yeah. And like I've gotten to like just like become internet friends with them, and they're super nice. But like a bunch of the writers and like Ken Jeong and Joe McHale and all like the stars have been going on these like little tiny indie podcasts because like I love that they seem to be like in on the fandom as much as the people who love Community. Yeah. But that is so crazy.
I was gonna say what I'll tell you about D&D 2 is like a lot of people will have an opinion of it of it's just like nerds that take themselves too seriously. It is so fun, and it is so funny. I'm telling you, the times I've laughed the hardest in my life are probably like 3 of the top 4, like the hardest laughter, like pain in my side laughter. I'm going to say 2 to 3 of the top 4 in my life have been D&D related, where someone just does something or says something so outrageous and hilarious, just and perfect for the moment. And then, because all these crazy things will be happening, and you're invested, and you have hours in on like an adventure, so stuff can be accidentally like set up or foreshadowed that you don't intend to, and that's what great is. So much of it is in the moment, and if something happens to pay off, it's a blast. Yeah,
that's so cool. I never heard anyone bring the comedy part into it. Now, are you like all like? Basing off the album, are you a metal person, a metalhead too?
Me personally, I am not. So I'm very upfront about that. Okay. I don't want to be fake about it. I have, I've dipped my toe in the water. There are songs I like, or once in a while I'll go to, but I don't in any way want to overplay that or try to pretend like I'm not. Yeah. Rick definitely is. He's big in the metal, and there's a huge overlap in the metal and D&D scene. But I appreciate it. I'm definitely a musical tourist. I'm a shameless, casual music fan where I've got literally like every genre across the board. There's something I like in it, or a little bit here and there, an album or a few songs here or there. Very eclectic, but also very casual, right? just very. And I'm trying to think of areas where maybe I have a deeper knowledge base. Probably like hip hop. I have the deepest knowledge base, but very, very eclectic in my music tastes.
I never heard that term, musical tourist. Yeah. That's how I would describe myself with film. Yeah. Like, I like them. And there's a few I can go deep on, but like when I talk to cinephiles and I just have to like tuck my tail between my legs, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like certain things I do, but not that much. So because like everything that I was watching the Kickstarter and like reading about it, everything you're saying, because you sound like, I'm not sure if do you go to the website, are you a fan of the Hard Times or the Hard?
Oh yeah.
Hard Drive?
Do you know Johnny Taylor? He's a comedian. He writes for them.
I know the name.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's been on our show. We become casual, very casual internet friends. But he's been on Let's Rewatch. Yeah. And he's great. And he writes for them.
Yeah. I have to follow him. I think I definitely follow him online because I've had I'm same thing. Internet like. He's a guest and like friendly with Dan Kozu, but he writes a lot of the metal stuff for Hard Times, and he also wrote a book called Lingaria, which seems very much in line with everything you're doing. And I'll connect you with him. He's doing some stuff. He has just started an independent radio station in Atlanta. Great, would love to. Too. But like, it's just those metal hard. It's like because I'm like, wow, metal, comedy, and video games. I'm like, yep, this is the red opera. Like that is your fan base right there. It's like those kids.
And when it comes to like music, I'm very in the moment of like what fits the moment, right? where if I was at like a metal show, I would be all in and like jumping around and digging it. And if I had never heard the song or didn't know a word of the band, it doesn't matter. I'd still be, I'd still be all in. Because why not? Like, right? Like, go all in. Like, don't stand against the wall. Dive in. Have fun with it. Same with, I know a lot of people like hate country, and it's like a very polarizing genre of music. But if I'm like lounging and it's hot and sunny outside and you're like a pool or in the backyard and you got friends, you're hanging out and you're just like day drinking, country's not a bad soundtrack for that. like it's a and it's okay. And like there are people that really don't like it, and that's fine. You're allowed to not like things. Like, and I'm trying not to yuck anyone else's yum, but for whatever the moment is, every genre of music has its moment, in my opinion, where it's like the perfect background music for whatever you're doing. I mean, I throw on their Google Home like all the time. Like after dinner, I got a cocktail I'm cleaning up after cooking, some like Frank Sinatra, and it's like, yeah, it's so, music's great. And as much as it's weird, is I really love music, but I'm also not ever going to call myself like an aficionado either at the same time, where I know what I like and I have like this wide range of things that I like. But I feel like there's always like every type of music has its place and has its time.
Do you think that was helpful for like the writing part of the Red Opera, where you could like you could write this based off of the album more objectively, because I'm imagining you liked it, but like, there's like sometimes if you like something, there's too much of an emotional connection and you just can't see. Like I have records that I know are just fucking garbage that I just can't understand why. I'm like, no, I love this so much, but I like that whole like if you liked it when you're young. If I watch it today for the first time, would I like it or listen to it? But so like that must have been kind of good to have that strength in the team, because you didn't have to like kind of worry about like, what's the metal? What are the fan? Like you don't have a fan base to answer to in terms of like metalheads or whatever. You're just like, I'm here to service the fucking story.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it helped where like my default writing is much more lighthearted, tongue in cheek, and comedy. And this is not. This is a pretty serious campaign, with a lot of stakes, and it's kind of dark and gothic. But it was a fun challenge for me. And then I was also kind of brought it almost as like a. And Rick and I again played really well off each other, in sense of me being kind of like a checks and balances type thing, where it's like, all right, maybe we pull back here and make a little joke to break the tension or something like that, right? Because it can't be so serious all the time. There's got to be a little you got to have that like rise in tension and then break, and then rise and then break, and kind of give people breathers and so. It was fun for me to try and create very original, but these encounters that players would have to fight through or figure out, that are very unique and very dynamic and just fun, challenging while being fun. I just really enjoyed the challenge of that. So
on top of all this, if you didn't have enough thing to do when you're not writing or working out, you host a podcast too. With past friends of the show and past guests Ash Blodgett and Brett Eagleston.
Yep.
And I was listening. I'm a huge fan of the show podcast Nerdificent, and then one of the episodes, I forgot which one. They're talking. It was around San Diego Comic-Con. Iffy Nataway all of a sudden just drops like, oh, and I ran into Ash Blodgett and Brett Eagleston at Comic-Con. I was like, oh my god! Like, I kind of didn't realize how many of all these internet people I love, like, who've been on your show, like Hector Navarro, or we've Travis McElroy. Like, you've had so many fucking awesome people that like in the circle. But so tell us a little bit about Let's Rewatch.
Yeah. So Let's Rewatch. I'll do like the official byline of it, right? Because it actually sums it up pretty nicely, and then I'll. Let's Rewatch is a show where we watch movies we loved in our youth to see if they're still any good. So essentially, we take a movie each time, and we've been on a really great. Our guests have been lining up, and have you ever been a guest, Chris, before my time as a host? Okay, well, we gotta change that then. Okay, so I'm just saying it right now. Official invite.
No, Matt.
Invite given. Take it invite given. You're gonna get in that. Yeah, we're gonna get you on.
I would love that.
It's nice when we have kind of a list that we think would be good, but when we have guests, which are most of the time these days, we'll let the guests choose, or if they have a movie that they loved back in the day that they haven't seen in a long time. And for general guidelines, we say the movie itself should be at least 10 years old, and it should be like at least 3 to 5 years since you've seen it. So there's some ambiguity whether it holds up or not, right? Or what we've had guests where they like, man, I can't choose between these 2 or these 4 movies, and we'll do like a Twitter poll, right, with our followers and see and let the followers.
That's choose. A good idea.
And then Brett and I will like try to put our thumbs on the scales and be like, we want this one, do this one, do this one, and like tell people to vote.
The rascals.
So what's interesting about the format, though, this isn't just a like we're gonna watch a movie and talk about it. It is a little bit of a commitment on like the guest part, but it's the end result's kind of a unique experience because what happens is we get on a call like we're having here, and we talk about the movie for about 20 to 30 minutes and share trivia and talk about the cast and director and how it did at the box office. But we haven't watched it yet. So it's kind of here's some interesting tidbits, fun facts. Here's who's in it. What do you, people who have seen, like who's seen it, who hasn't ever seen it. What do you remember about it? Predictions. What do you what do you think we're in for? And then we pause the recording and we hang up and we all go watch the movie in we all go watch the movie in our homes. And then as soon as we're done, and we're pretty good about, bam, 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 knocking it out, we hop back on the recording, and then, so minutes after we just watched it, and then in real time, the credits rolled 5 minutes ago, I'm back on, and we're talking about it as far as, like, what are our reactions to it? How did it hold?
That is so fucking cool.
It's fun because you kind of have that split, and you can kind of feel the energy change, whether it's positive or negative, depending on how the movie went. Yeah.
I forgot what word you was it composite memory? I think you guys were talking about on your aliens episode. Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly what you're talking about, but like how often sometimes like all of the hosts like I don't remember. I know it was an example. I'm kind of blanking. But I'll make up to make so it makes sense. But like how there's like just say there's a trilogy and people often think that they like a movie more than they do because they remember parts from number 2 that were
that was yeah mm-hmm.
Like
yep I remember
that. yeah I am so fucking guilty of that. Like I spent my whole life thinking that I thought the Ninja Turtle movies were the greatest movies of my whole entire life, blah blah. Going back, the first one's really fucking good. Second one is only good because I liked it when I was 7, and I forgot the third one existed. But I would conflate like thinking that the Vanilla Ice scene in 2 was actually 3.
Oh yeah.
Like I completely wiped out the fact that they went to Asia. So in my head, I like it. But like which I think it's really fun. It's kind of fun of how much you misremember stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
With like it's. I mean, I know all about the Mandela effect and stuff like that, and like it's like I like this kind of stuff, but I think that the podcast does that so well. It's like, oh yeah, and I like too, like when you guys do one, and you have not only do you guys have a great guest, but you always pick movies that maybe because I'm like we're all in the same age range. Like it's one of the few movie podcasts I'm like I've seen pretty much every movie on here.
I'm sure it's to do with like the age range. Yeah, we're like mid to early 30s, but we all and it's also it is interesting.
Dorks.
It is interesting though. There are years. Especially like in the 90s, there are certain years that just had a lot more movies that are iconic and like 92, 93, 96, 97 are huge. There might be. I don't know. We joke about it how like 93 is like on the Mount Rushmore of years.
Yeah.
There's so many movies from 1993, 96.
What's 93?
Let me pull up.
Give us a list because I'm not good at these things.
I'm out to
I don't know why I asked you. Like, you should know that off the top of your head. The thing you're not prepared for. Like, I don't know.
No, you're good. I'm just Googling top movies of 1993.
Can I take a guess? Let's see. 93.
Yeah.
What is it? No, Keaton Batman's, 89?
Yeah.
And then, what's 93? I don't even fucking know what I would have watched. Jurassic Park, maybe?
I should go through our episode list and be like, I can probably pick out Army of Darkness, Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, I got one.
Yeah. Not just the biggest movies, but ones we've done on the show. But there's tons of movies you'd remember today. Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's
Cool Runnings, Rudy, Grumpy Old Men. I don't know if you've done this in the show, but just like movies everybody knows. The Firm.
It's cool. I'm just making a list of things I need to go back and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to.
Demolition. We did Demolition Man. Mrs. Doubtfire.
Jurassic Park. That was 93?
I know, it feels like it would be like, I would if you told me what year, I would have guessed like 95 for that, Mrs. Doubtfire. The Sandlot.
It's funny, how every year, like, most of my nephew's 6, so him and all his little friends on Disney Plus, they're all obsessed with Sandlot, which I think is like so cool. And then he just watched Jurassic Park. Like, it's always every generation to see what's the next one to carry over, but I never like Sandlot is like that definitely holds up. I watched that somewhat recently.
I believe it does. I've just seen it so many times. I don't even need to see it again.
Hey, how did Ash do with the Marvels movies? Did she end up coming around?
Oh yeah, she loved them, and I made her say on air twice that I was right and she was wrong. So
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that because I guess like because Marvel movies, like, I guess too, like, you know, you just have like, I guess I've had this thing about D&D. I guess I just had this unconscious bias against it for whatever reason, and so I get it. Sometimes, like, I feel like if I never saw a Marvel movie, I would hate them because the fans are so annoying, and I'm one of them. But like. I mean, I don't know. I just
if
love
the
them.
only thing you've ever seen about an MCU movie is a trailer, it would be so easy to dismiss them as just like, oh, they're just schlock. They're just, like muscly guys in CGI suits punching monsters. And it's like,
oh, and that's there.
I mean, yeah, it is, but I'm saying it's not. And that's my first response with the whole Scorsese comments is like, he has obviously never actually sat down and like watched them.
Yeah.
Or watched, and not all of them necessarily, but even, you know, I bet one at the most, because there is so much nuance and complex and character growth over the length of the Infinity Saga and change and what you said something earlier. Man, I've only seen a movie by myself in the theater twice, and it was Infinity War and Endgame, and I did it on purpose because I really wanted to just sit by myself, and I just went to like a matinee on like the Fridays of the weeks that came out by myself at like a noon show. And Endgame, man, was one of the best, if not the best, theater experiences I've ever had. And like the way the crowd, everyone was just losing it and like laughing or like cheering and just at the right time. And it's just, and you're emotional, and I'll
make fun of myself. No, I'm not making fun. I'm fucking proud of this. So my brother and I, just the way it worked out, we couldn't get childcare, so we couldn't. My wife and I couldn't go together. So we ended up going the second night. But like my brother-in-law Alex and I, like, he's my bud. He's on the autism spectrum. Very very high functioning, but like not an emotional person. Like great, but like huge Marvel fan. And I've known him for 10 years, and that was the first time in my entire life I've ever seen him cry. And not only was it him, because we went the first night, the entire theater. So the embarrassing part on my end is, at one point I was keeping it together, so I thought, and all of a sudden the woman next to me handed me a tissue. Like, I mean, I didn't because I thought I was just doing a little like but apparently I was like fucking... So I took a ton of edibles before it started, so I think that didn't help. So I hit 50 right around like when Black Panther
came out. Through.
And right around that area when they were coming out, I was like, I took too much. But it wasn't me. Every single person in that theater, and it was I saw some, I think it's Providence or I don't know. Yeah. I mean, everyone looked different. I mean, people... Yeah. Everything, it was like what America could look like. It was insane. I saw people like tough motherfuckers, bikers, like gang members, whatever. Everyone was walking out just ball. I've never seen so many men openly cry, man. And I've been to a lot of funerals. It was that good. And you know the part that got me the hardest is what fucking Happy.
Cheeseburgers?
When he's like, yep, we're dads. So that got me. My
daughters are like that age. Yeah, so it's...
Oh,
my daughters are that age range.
It was the most... Oh, it was the most communal experience. But even like if you're someone who's like, I don't want to watch 26 movies or whatever, just the first Iron Man is like, everything about that movie does not make sense. Like it's so. I don't know. But now I love Marvel movies like the way I like television. Yeah. Like if I have a mood, if I want to laugh, I'm watching Ragnarok. If I want to like a heist movie, I'm watching Ant-Man. If I want like some more, if I want to fucking just go for it, we're going Endgame or whatever. Or the Spider-Man too. Actually, those Spider-Man Homecoming, the Spider-Man movies I've been watching a ton.
Spider-Man. I love one of my favorites that I feel like it's one of my personal top 5 that isn't mentioned a lot. It's just a personal thing. Is Winter Soldier, and it's something.
Oh my god! It's
something
perfect.
I love about
it. And
here's
movie.
Why it's really great too. And I think so. I love taking an established genre, and then I like smaller stories, and that's not, of course it's not like small, right? A giant fucking helicarrier, like it, but it. Part of what I like about it is it's not a superhero movie. It is a spy thriller that takes place in a superhero world. I love stuff like that, and I want to see them do that. Now that they've done this, like the saga, I want to see them do that with like Star Wars. And that's like Rogue One was like that. Rogue One was like a spy war movie that takes place in the Star Wars universe. I want to see that type of stuff, like superhero stuff, Star Wars stuff, where it's like, and I like doing that with, and I want to make more stuff like that myself, where it's like take an established genre like that, like fantasy, and because of Red Opera, I have a novel. It's like a side project I had to shelve. I want to come back and finish it, but I'll tell you, it's basically like it's almost like a gangster crime novel, but takes place in like a Tolkien fantasy world.
I love
so this. I love stuff like that. Yeah, and
I love it. I love it
like,
so much.
Give me the trappings of these genres we love, but do a different kind of story in them. Don't give. Yeah.
You know who did that pretty well? Did you ever watch iZombie?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I found it very enjoyable.
I love iZombie. Mm-hmm. Terrible name, great show. Yeah, they did. I love when they would do like when they would take like that kind of rap the genre mm-hmm. thing. It just, I don't know. As you're talking about, it made me think of the they did like the film noir episode, and they do mm-hmm. the D&D stuff. I'm totally with you. I want to see more of that, and like I forgot who I was having this conversation with, probably producer Chris Ball, who, sorry Chris, couldn't be here tonight. We miss you, buddy. And we were, I remember. So our producer Bree, she doesn't get the Muppets. Like, she just never saw mm-hmm. it. It's just not her thing. And me and Mike and Chris were trying to explain it to her. I'm like, it's like a Marvel movie. They're just characters, and then they can wrap them up and do different mm-hmm. things with it. And it made me think, I'm like, I think the Muppets are the original Marvel.
Yeah, they have their own. Yeah, they're the original MCU, the Muppet Cinematic Universe.
They're the Muppet. Now I just want to see like a Muppet movie of like a Marvel Muppet movie. Can you write that
down? Writing it down. One of the biggest crimes in film of all time is that they've you can't find the edit now of the Muppet Christmas Carol with the "Love Is Gone" song in the middle of it, and it's like, that's so powerful.
Why is that?
And they felt like it slowed things down too much, or like kids didn't get it. But like, it makes the song they sing at the end make sense. Like, the love we found. It's like, because they sing, and it's like, and it also, it's like they do these weird cuts now where he's just crying all of a sudden, but like, that song is so powerful and emotional and great, and it's like, no, it's okay, let the kids like learn that and like see that, like, but again, that, that's a great, because that goes into another point I was going to bring up with the Marvel movies too, is part of why I adore what I'll call like comedy adventures, like, and kind of an action adventure, but it's kind of comedy too, and the MCU does a great job of that, is they're just a shit ton of fun. Okay, they're just fun, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. B, the emotional moments for me hit 20 times harder in an otherwise comedic piece of media because of all the good times you've shared and felt. And it's not just an endless slog of like, there's so many shows that are very popular. Again, not gonna, if you like it and enjoy it and it brings you a little bit of calm at the end of the day, like these like primetime dramas that are just like an endless slog of like human tragedy, and it's like, just what's like, I have cancer, but I'm also pregnant and I'm in love with two different men type show. And like, I'm not gonna name any shows because I don't want to call anyone out, but I'm saying you're probably thinking of one. You probably know someone who, you know what I mean. There's a couple of them that are very popular dramas right now. For me, that doesn't do anything for me, because it's just like a writer's room is like, what's some like fucked up shit that we can throw at these characters, right? Whereas you give me a show like a Community, like a Scrubs, or a movie series like MCU,
I love Scrubs,
where the majority of the time it's fun and funny and it's realistic, endearing character, and these are very endearing characters. So when something real happens, or something, you have a sad episode, you have the Brendan Fraser arc in Scrubs or something, like, hits.
Where do you think we are?
It has so much more weight, so much more emotional weight. It hits so much harder, and that's the type of stuff I like making too. Is where like most of it is fun, and then if you have a few poignant moments there, I think their value is just so much greater, and they will mean so much more to people.
Which Marvel movies were you referring to? I think I missed you say it.
Oh, well, I'm saying, well, because of Endgame, and the reason Endgame hit so hard
was
because Tony Stark was such a funny character who had like one-liners and quips for a decade.
Yeah.
The fact that he then sacrificed himself is like that, and then
it's the one thing Doctor Strange couldn't see. Oh my god, because I know, and I wonder what's going to be now seeing it again after we lost
oh man,
I think it's gonna.
That isn't like the top 3 have fucked me up. Like for it, Carrie Fisher, Robin Williams, Chadwick Boseman are like my top 3 of where I had a personal emotional.
Oh yeah, Robin Williams. He took his life on my he passed. I'm sorry, on my birthday.
Oh man.
So I'm like, I mean, I don't obviously know him, but like I was.
And Stan Lee, so it's top 4 and Stan Lee, but like.
Yeah. So people like I'm not one who gets like real worked up over like celebrity deaths, but I have certain ones, and I was like I work in like behavioral. I was like explaining why Chadwick meant to so many people. I was like, well, for a lot of times when we lose someone famous, it's just kind of helping a lot of people. It brings up unresolved issues of or grief or just of their own personal life, and you know what I mean. Like and you know, T'Challa just meant so much to so many on levels that I'll never understand, which I think is great.
To learn how quiet he kept it, and pretty much all of his Black Panther stuff, being in great shape and doing these incredibly physical, demanding, and then the slog of like the PR and the marketing stuff, and just like the demands of what these roles take. There isn't a word. We don't have a word in English for like that level of strength.
I don't like my mom is a dual cancer survivor, and she's a badass bitch.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing that the kids say. I hope, Mom. but like, yeah, and like, I literally almost killed her. But like, I don't understand how I just knowing people going through it. I don't understand how anyone does it. But like, yeah, like while filming and even like press or like. And he's doing chemo, like I don't know, and then all those videos of him online of him going to Children's Hospital. Oh, and then not only did he just make like these incredible movies, but like he was like, I'm making up the narrative, but you know, he made the movies he made that seemed like on purpose before he knew he was no longer with us. But like 42, James Brown, Black Panther, like those are Thurgood Marshall. Like I mean, he was just like, I'm gonna make Black culture legendary. Like he just wow. And 42 was incredible.
It's I mean, it's one of those things you don't realize it. It's like, he's the guy who did that, and he did that, and then you look back like, holy shit, he was in like relatively efficient amount of time and efficient amount of movies. It was like insanely strong performances, very important pieces of art, and just
and highlight culture that like I mean, 42 is the James Brown movie. Actually, I didn't think was very good. But
I had not seen that one.
Yeah, it was very. If I remember it correctly, but I think they tried to get a little creative with like the narrative, like the cuts and back, like trying to non-linear story, and it was actually just more frustrating. But I'm trying to. The 42 I really loved. I didn't see any of the other ones. Obviously, I watched Black Panther after we lost.
Me too.
And actually, and it's funny. I saw it like 2 weeks ago before I saw it in theaters. In Rhode Island, so we have movie theaters open safely-ish. But I saw it in theaters a couple weeks before anything, just out of the blue. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll see Black Panther. And I was like, man, I forgot how good this movie is. I mean, because I always thought I didn't like it as much as I did, because there's like one chunk of it is kind of like, but the rest of it's great. And I was like, nope, that part was fine for me now. And like, it was better the second, third, fourth watch.
Killmonger's my favorite Marvel villain of the MCU.
It's hard because I've loved Michael B. Jordan since The Wire, so I still look at that little. I'm like,
I think of it. You're just a little I think of him since from The Wire, yeah. Oh man, and that's another one. I mean, that's a serious drama, so it doesn't fit into my other argument earlier. But when is it D'Angelo is like just going off like, where's Wallace? Where the fuck? Yeah. Oh man.
Michael B. is so good in that movie. Like.
Oh,
kind of.
Well, because he's like. What's great is they gave him a thing where it's like, you know, it's the old cliche: the best villains are the ones who think they're the heroes, and he thinks like, I'm righting wrongs. And what I love about it is it wasn't so poor choice of words, but so black and white, right? Because
Yeah.
he did bad things, but T'Challa saw he kind of had a point though too. It's like the way he was doing it. Nah, I'm not going to help wage war in the world, but he had a point that we have all these resources and we've done nothing with it to help the world. And so he sees a point, so he try to find that like compromise, that happy medium, and like his ending and his speech at the end about bearing up sea, like just gut wrenches me, and is so like in just a short few sentences is so powerful. He's great. He's phenomenal. And then, but going back to the Chadwick though, he's got some of just the way some of his line deliveries, especially like Infinity War, 2 lines he has are so great about like evacuate the city, engage all defenses, and then he just looks at Cap and it's like, get this man a shield. That my like hair stands on end every time I watch that. Every time. I've seen the movie so many times every time. And then when they have the little like tete-a-tete with the Black Order when they come down before the fight at Wakanda in Infinity War, and they're like, Thanos wants this, and he's like, in his response, he sees this massive, imposing, undefeatable alien army, and his response is, "You'll have nothing here but dust and blood," and it's just so great. And it's
I just like was listening to on one of his past podcast experience, and I didn't realize I never heard him talk, because when I think of him talking as T'Challa.
Oh yeah,
it was actually my wife. My wife told me, she's like, "Yeah, it was his idea to have the African accent," and I was like, that's an accent? Like, I never even put that together until I was like, oh. But I still can't even, when he, it's M'Baku, and he says, it's like, father.
Yeah.
Like, that one word just sticks in it, and he's, oh my god, but you know what, it's crazy, because we can talk about how great he is in that movie, but everyone. Angela Bassett kills it,
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker. Forrest, thank you.
But yeah, Winston Duke is in...
Even the short time...
Yeah. Forrest as M'Baku is great, and I just
M'Baku, whew, that guy funny, and that joke that comes out of nowhere,
the vegetarians,
they're vegetarian, like it actually hits. And I was like, what? Who's Sterling K. Brown? Is even though he's in it just a little bit, he's great. I mean, I forgot Sherry. I mean, Lupe is just like bringing something special. What is the bald woman's name? I don't know her name, but
I don't know her real name. Okoye is the character. I don't know her. Yeah, she's great. Oh yeah, she's awesome. She's good. Yeah, I'm glad that they like made her like, and they gave her more of like a role too in like Endgame and stuff. And oh
my god, it was so good. The last thing I did want to actually ask you about was, you said you do D&D streams on Geekly Media, and I don't know what any of those words meant, but that's so cool. No, what Geekly Media, it sounds like I gotta look into that. And I actually I had written down a question, because it was like, this D&D thing is like, can you play it online, especially right now? Because I've been hearing about people doing Cards Against Humanity on Zoom, which sounds really fun. And like, I know AA is on Zoom or whatever. Like, so obviously this exists. I'm just starting to learn about the streaming. Like, we just did a watch party. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. So we're about to join Twitch and like all that, like for the podcast technically, but really just to have a reason to play video games and be like, it's for work.
Yeah. You can absolutely. So D&D, there are people who are purists at like earlier versions, like 3 or like 3.5 or 4th edition better. And D&D in its kind of original form was originally meant to be played, because it's before internet, around a table, and a lot of it involves like a map and little figurines moving. But they really did some reworking with 5th edition, and you can, most of the time I'm playing it, we're not using like a visual aid, like a map or anything like that. It's all theater of the mind, and you're just talking, and you're on a video call with each other, and sometimes you'll throw images on screen. Wow. But to answer like your question, so yeah, I do want to shout them out, because they're a phenomenal community of human beings. There is a community on the internet and out there called Geekly, Geek and then LY, Geekly Inc. Okay, they're a podcast network, and just a real true actual community of folks. They have a Discord. They have an annual convention, a con every year. Not this year, of course, because 2020. But it's a lot of fun, and they have a bunch of podcasts. Probably their most well-known or flagship show is called Greetings Adventurers. It's called a real play podcast where you play. And that's a whole huge genre currently of podcasts. They're called Real Play, where people play D&D and record themselves.
What?
Oh yeah. It is. Well, have you heard of Critical Role ever, Matthew Mercer? Okay, so that one is so popular, and it's all professional voice actors. it's apparently getting adapted into an Amazon show. So,
I did read about that.
So, real play podcasts are basically people they're creating podcasts or doing streams or both. Like they stream it and then turn the audio into a podcast. A couple days later, of people playing through a D&D or other system tabletop campaign. Because what it is, and we talked about earlier, what it ends up being is basically like an improv radio play. Because you're telling a story. You have the DM who's like your narrator, and then you have your players who are like your cast of characters, your main heroes, and you follow these characters on an adventure. So probably the most popular show is Greetings Adventurers. It's funny, I did a 2-part guest spot the last 2 weeks on their show, and it was great. I'm friends with the people that run it, and I go to their con every year, and
that's so cool.
It's a lot of fun. So I also do another show on their Twitch channel, on the Geekly Inc. Twitch channel. That's like the daytime show because I want to do something during the day. Not everyone is as blessed as I am to be able to do that during the day, right? With like jobs and stuff, and like more traditional jobs and work.
If it's the internet, man, there's all different time zones. People are watching somewhere at different times.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I do play in a regular game at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Geekly Inc. And we're playing through Descent into Avernus is the last bit, or there's a new one that just came out, but it was the last from last year, big official. So Wizards of the Coast is the company that owns D&D officially. And they put out this big sprawling thing called Descent into Avernus. Avernus is hell. It's D&D hell. So it's this campaign that we're playing through where I play a character, and we've gone into hell to fulfill a quest, and we're battling demons and devils and stuff like that. And we're kind of nearing the end, and they have this. So we play through it every Tuesday for 2 hours, and I play a character on that, and we're going through this adventure together. And people can tune in. All the episodes are on YouTube. We call it the Happy Hell Hour because we're in hell. But so we might have to rename it because after we finish, we're not going to be in hell anymore. But so I do that.
This sounds so fucking cool. I cannot wait to check this out.
And then there's a couple of stuff potentially in the works. Rick, my co-writer, and I have talked to Ash actually about potentially doing a show on Laugh Stash where we would do kind of these like one-shots where these self-contained episodes with guests where we'd play different, not just D&D, but similar games to like D&D systems, and have guests on and play a little mini adventure on there. As of us recording this, the Red Opera, our Kickstarter, our next stretch goal on deck is to fund a pilot show where we'll play through the Red Opera and then other content on the Q Games channel on Twitch. Q like line QUEUE. I just as of us recording it, we're $1,400 away from that, so hopefully we hit that pretty soon.
You're gonna get there.
So yeah, it's so they're a lot of fun. Honestly, it really comes down to the personalities of the cast, right? If they're people that you vibe with and you're gonna find, I guarantee there's so many. There's one out there you probably will find and like. The McElroy brothers do one called The Adventure Zone.
They have like a book too, like a New York Times best-selling book now.
Yeah, they're adapting it into graphic novels, like volume by volume. So those graphic novels they're selling are graphic novel adaptations of their D&D podcast. So those adventures are, what's funny about those, you go through and read those stories, a lot of that was improv because like there's a DM and then they're playing characters and the DM presents you with a situation and they don't know how you're going to, I've made this joke a million times. It's not even a joke. It's the truth. There is nothing more chaotic in this universe than a D&D player because there is no telling what they're going to do. And that was one of our biggest challenges in like writing the Red Opera was you have to lay out this adventure in this campaign and you have no clue what the player is going to do because you can theoretically do anything.
Oh, wow.
You can say anything, do anything.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to like lay it out there and help the DM and get there, but keep that in mind, like, man, and try to think of and we'll still never think of every possibility of what a player will do, or try to do in a situation. But it's just I highly recommend it. The gaming, if not D&D, then something similar to it, because there's versions of it or other they're called tabletop RPGs, TTRPGs. There's other systems that are fantasy based. There's like sci-fi ones or western ones or steampunk ones or any genre you want. They're just so much fun,
and also like a less barrier to entry. Like if you don't if you're not a video game, like you don't own a system or something.
Literally,
like that.
all you need is a group of people to do it with, and a video call, Skype or Zoom or Discord or Hangouts or whatever, and you can theoretically do it like that. And there's
I'm gonna hit you up afterwards to get more information, because this just sounds like I just wanted, because like, and so like part of my job is like I work with people like with mental health issues and stuff, but like especially the pandemic, like isolation's fucking bad. So I'm always trying to find new ways for people to like do ways to communicate and enjoy. And I was like, oh my god, I can think of so many people I know that would be like, instead of sitting home watching TV tonight, go fucking try that. Because a lot of times for the older people I work with, it's like, well, I don't have I can't Twitch, I don't have a PlayStation or an Xbox, or I don't use a PC. People use a phone, but this is like, they just need to be on like Zoom.
Yeah, you don't even need to buy dice, because there are online dice simulators.
Oh my god, yeah, there's like such a
I mean, but the dice are really cheap. You can buy sets of like D&D, like 7 different kinds of dice for like $10. You know, like we're all gonna be home for a lot more than we used to be for the foreseeable future. We just have to wrap our heads around that part of it. So like I'm my personal self. It's like I need to socialize and do things, and like, but like this is like the perfect time. Like everyone out there can try this. It's like, why would you not? Yeah,
try
like let's take like the Red Opera for example. Like I'm shooting myself in the foot here. I'm trying to, we want to sell as many books as we can. But I'll be real here. If you have a group of like 4 people or 5 people and you want to do this, you really only need one copy. The DM, the GM, the person who's going to lead and narrate is really the only one who needs a copy of the book. So like go check it out. Like and there's so much content in there, and there's lots of like merch add-ons, and we've got like little mini figures of our main characters. We have a dice tower. A tower, if you're not familiar, a dice tower is this thing where instead of like just rolling with your hand, you basically like drop it in a little tower and it rolls down and it falls into a little tray. It's just kind of cool. And we've got custom dice. We've got
you guys put a lot of fucking work into this.
Yes.
Like, oh my god. So everyone, even if you just buy one, then the other 3 of you just share everything, and then go take it out from your local library. So the library had to buy it, so you still get a sale. Yeah, that's, you guys put a lot of work. Like, I can't even. How many hours have you ever even just stopped to think how many hours you jumped into this?
It's been.
Thousands?
I'll just say it's been my primary like project for a year now. As far as because we had to write it. So first we had to write the document. So Rick and I wrote the document, and then we had a little help from a buddy of ours, Joe, for some ancillary. Joe Asfani, another very talented writer. And we had it early January, and then we needed like how we're gonna get this created. So we talked, and then we partnered with this studio, Apotheosis Studios, and they've done like all the art and the layout, and they're doing the printing. And if you go just check out the page for no other reason than to see the absolutely gorgeous art that Apotheosis created, it's mind-blowing what they've done. And then we have with DiAmorte, and then we also brought in DiAmorte partnered with the Budapest Symphonic Scoring Orchestra, and what they did is they created like new extended versions of the orchestral backing music to make it longer. So every chapter has a QR code in the front of it. You scan the QR code, and it basically queues up a backing track to play the chapter 2 of like orchestral symphony behind you that like is like background music for your gameplay.
I love the level of nerdery, and this is why nerds make the best art.
Yeah, we really, really, really are swinging for the fences here.
No, I mean, it shows that the Kickstarter is going great. People who can, please, if you can, donate. At the very least, share. And man, this has been such a fucking blast to chat with you. Is there anything we missed? I mean, I don't know if you wanted to dive a little deeper into your space jam.
My space jam. I will, because that's, But I mean, if you're listening to this...
Because Wayne Knight really brings it.
Oh, well, I mean...
Take that, Bill Murray.
I do love space stuff. That is like my novel series. But it's...
Oh, actually, I did want to ask you about the Pentagon Files. What the fuck is your thought about this alien shit
right
now?
It's I mean, it's cool. I 100% believe there's aliens out there. Whether or not we've actually made contact, though, because I think people sometimes it's hard to wrap our heads around how fucking big the universe is in the galaxy. It's just I'm most people who like 100% believes aliens exist, but think it's very, very unlikely we will make contact with them in the next like centuries. Like it's just because it's so fucking big, the universe, and the odds, and like in the grand scale of things, our entire civilization is like a snap. in the like it's nothing. So what you have to have is like there was a great sort of like act out like stage bit I saw I don't know if he's like a musician or a comedian do that kind of like it's kind of like bittersweet and sad because what it means is literally in the grand scheme of things of the universe our entire existence of humanity 10,000 years plus or quote unquote human civilization millions of years whatever is in compared to the universe is just a wisp. And so what you need is you need to have two snaps that happen to happen at the same time, right, and overlap, and then be close enough. Because you could literally have 100,000 year civilization happens over here in the universe, and have another 100,000 year existence of a sentient species happen over here. But those 100,000 years could easily not overlap, or they could be million light years away from each other. So it's kind of like civilizations have come and gone before our time and are still yet to rise, and it's like it's like beautiful and sad at the same time.
Yeah, it's like if you listen to the what is the Carl Sagan, the we are a speck amongst a speck. Mm-hmm. Like you can take that as real heartening or real sad. I choose to makes me really happy.
It's like bittersweet for me. Like a lot of people don't like that movie Ad Astra, Brad Pitt. I like it for nothing else. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of weird or dumb about it. I do love the existentialness, like the existential crisiness of it, where it's just like the lone human in a void against like the infinite reach of space is just very fascinating to me. And my own writing is much less deep when it comes to space stuff. My like book series Space Tripping, like the first one's out. You can get it on paperback or ebook or Audible. It's on Audible as well.
Or next to you.
Yeah, right here, guys. Yeah, it's next to me.
I know, it's beautiful art, too. It looks beautiful.
Thank you, yeah. And then the sequel is probably around year-end, probably around the holidays of 2020. Probably just do like a virtual, get it out there in paperback, too, and Audible and all of that. But no book signings because, fucking COVID. But, like, if you like tongue-in-cheek, fun sci-fi romps, imagine, like, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but a little but more swearing and beer drinking.
I love this. So people could hear you on the podcast. They can read your books. They can play your D&D. And then how do you fit a workout in all this?
I just don't sleep much. I mean, I do it, and I've gotten really efficient. I used to be, I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. Obviously, I was the biggest gym rat in the world, but it takes up so much time. And then, like, the closest decent gym to where my house is, like, minimum 15 minutes one way. So you're talking minimum half-hour round trip. And it's a lot of time. Yeah. So with the COVID stuff pandemic, I invested in some honestly pretty low cost equipment for my house. And I've kind of fallen in love with my home workouts. I don't know if I'm going to go back. And so I'm just because of the efficiency and stuff. And it's like I just have like a cheap exercise bike. I've got like one of those like pull up dip racks. I'm going to probably get a weight vet and like some resistance bands. And if that's all and like I used to be a big old school like powerlifter guy, right? Like with barbells and the big bars and deadlifts and all that. And I'm kind of like, I feel really good now. My joints feel way better, and I save so much time. And I'll probably, so I don't know if I'll go back. Yeah,
this is the most athletic talk this podcast has ever seen. So thank you. That it's been 7 years, and you're the first person to actually talk about exercise.
I do it, and it's because it's.
I love it.
I absolutely love like food and drink, so I have to earn it. I feel like I absolutely adore.
You gotta work for it.
I love cheeseburgers and beer and donuts. So, but yeah.
I think it's cool because it breaks the sci-fi mold of what people think sci-fi people are, and it's like sci-fi fans are just people.
Yeah.
They're just dorky people that just like, not even want to say dorky, they're just people who like fucking like stuff but to a cooler amount. You get to it. Awesome. This has been so great, man. Where can people find you and all the things, and we'll put everything in the show notes as well.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the Pat Edwards. I'm definitely way more active on Twitter. I don't know, just Instagram I'm just bad at. It's just not the way my brain is wired. I'm a writer, right? Words. Twitter is words, Instagram is pictures. And I know there's ways you can do just those like color backgrounds, and I'm at, like I said, at the Pat Edwards. I know Chris, you've got a link to the Red Opera Kickstarter. If you go to the Pat Edwards, it's in my pinned tweet. It's all I scream about. Other than when I'm talking about cocktails and stuff that I'm making, because I like to grow my own herbs now for cocktails and things like that. And I'm also working on the side on a self-publish. I'm just gonna self-publish it. a cocktail recipe book.
You should talk. Oh my god, our producer Bree is like super obsessed with gardening. So we just talked to Isaac Cade from Cracked, and it ended up them talking about gardening, and I was like, what is happening?
Basic ass couples that like, we're gonna plant a garden during quarantine, but she is like a monster, and she's grown multiple people. Her tomato plants are 8 feet tall.
Jesus, I was like, I'm going to invest more time into my podcast instead of doing anything outside. No, that's not true. I've been going out, but awesome, man! Thank you so much for doing this. And
yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast.